Naka Onolafor here to make the invisible visible. So I want to kick this off by talking about a statement made by YouTuber Kimberly Nicole Foster. And I don't know if it was on her For Harriet channel, which is more of her feminist channel, or on her personal channel. But she said a line and it really resonated with me. She said, "Feminist in the streets, pick me in the sheets." And when I tell you, when I heard that, it was like a game changer. And I said to myself, this is the dilemma for the modern Black woman. Stay with me. So I'm going to do my best in this video to unpack this statement. And I actually Googled this to see, okay, what else is out there? Who else has used this? And I couldn't find hardly anything. So this is like my territory here. When I don't find much, I'm like, okay, that's my cause to go in and make a video about it. And so what I want to do today is I really want us to unpack feminism, more specifically Black feminism, and this sort of, I guess I'll call it a dilemma, in terms of how to be a quote unquote good feminist, and also how to keep a man. And so I'm going to start by defining a pick-me. And I don't know if we are still using this term. I know maybe a year ago it was a term that was thrown around quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and define a pick-me anyway. So essentially a pick-me is a woman who does whatever she has to do or whatever she feels she needs to do to keep a man. So that's as far as I'll go with that definition. Feel free to, Google it and you might get a better definition from the Urban Dictionary. But when we talk about being a feminist in the streets, in my mind, what we're talking about is a liberal, modern, in most cases, educated Black woman. And I want to take it back to bell hooks because I have a book that will be released very soon. And I use a quote from bell hooks as the basis of why I wrote the book. So essentially, my book is being categorized, in a sense. I'm almost categorizing my book as a feminist book, as a feminist read. So I think most people who decide to read my book and purchase it and so forth will assume that I am a feminist. And the $1 million question, am I a feminist? Do I identify with feminism? And here's what I'll say. It's complicated. And I'm going to break that down. What I will say is I identify with a lot of feminist thought. I have been highly influenced by bell hooks and a lot of her work, especially, I wouldn't say so much her work around feminism, but definitely her work around love and the way she unpacks love. Her books have been instrumental to my own coming of age story. And I just want to highlight that, bell hooks is looked at as a old school, and rest in peace, bell hooks. But she is viewed as more of a old school feminist thought. Since, and again, and obviously some of her best work, in my opinion, was actually produced like early 2000s. So even though she had, published work previously, but, a lot of her what I would call some of her best work, which was actually published after some of the quote unquote new school Black feminists. So I'll throw out some names that you might know. Joan Morgan, and feel free to Google, her book was When the Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost. It's probably one of the foundational books about what Black feminism looks like. And, at that time, what was considered modern day, which I believe was like the late 90s. And it had a lot to do with hip hop and the way in which Black women sort of interpret and the way in which Black women make sense of hip hop and their space within that. So, and since Joan Morgan, there have been many, I shouldn't say many, but there have been some books by Black women authors about feminism and their different interpretations. Another book was called Hood Feminism, I think her name is Mickey Kendall. Might be getting these names wrong. Also, there was a book called Trap Feminism by Cecily. So I'm going to link, I'll try my best to not only link some of these things in the description, but also at the end of the video, I will try to link this video to Kimberly Nicole Foster's video where she talks about feminism. But I say all this to say that there has been a long history with Black women trying to interpret what does feminism mean to us in our modern day. What does it mean to be a woman who's working, who's educated, who might be a mom, but then also a woman who has a desire for a marriage and a relationship, and a husband and a stable family and to build wealth. These things, to some degree, have been in conflict. Not always. There are people who figure it out. We see them, many public figures like Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. What a great, beautiful merge, of both of those things, the feminism with the sort of, and I'm going to try to move away from saying pick me because it actually has a negative connotation, but I'll just call it a desire to be married, a desire to maintain your relationship. So we see these public figures, but then we also have, heard and seen figures like Oprah, who has said publicly that she is not interested in marriage and becoming a wife because of what that means, what position that's going to put her in to say that now I am a wife, and now these expectations are forced upon me, and Oprah doesn't really have the time to cook and clean and do some of those traditional gender roles that wives are expected to do. And Oprah has been very open about saying, this is why I never wanted to be married. She has a partner, and to my knowledge, she has a partner of a long time, but not a husband. And again, this is to my knowledge. So what do we do with this? Where do we go with this? And I'm not going to really talk about this. Well, I'm going to partially talk about it from a personal standpoint, but then also bring it out to just really a discussion. And my hope is that in the comment section, feel free to leave your comments as far as what you believe about this, because this is a topic that a lot of Black women don't touch upon because it's a controversial topic. I also wanted to highlight, and I missed this earlier, but Roxane Gay, who talked about like bad feminism. Okay. And so there's, again, all these different interpretations, this idea of being a good feminist and a bad feminist. And so what does it mean to have these strong feminist values, but then, I don't know, you watch a rap video, where it's explicit and women are not clothed, or what does it mean to then see a movie and there's a scene in the movie that's very much not in support of feminist values, and we all consume this content. We're always consuming these images, again, movies, listening to music. That what does it mean when a rap song comes on and all the women go on the dance floor and drop it like it's hot, and but then these are same women who are out in the street saying they're feminist and actually supporting feminist causes, and so again, we're all kind of intermingled in this world of trying to figure out what side we stand on. And in many cases, there is no, we choose both, we're like, well, and this is why this line that I heard Kimberly Nicole Foster say, and I want to give her credit because I had never heard anyone say this before. This is why this line meant something. When I heard her say, feminists in the streets, pick me in the sheets, it was like, that maybe is the answer. or maybe it's the problem, and I don't know which one it is, which is why I'm making this video, and I would love to open up a discussion. So I will just bring it to me and my personal experience. It's very interesting being a woman and exclusively have been dated, and now I'm engaged to a Black man. So being with Black men my entire life of dating, And the reality that most black men, in terms of, the income bracket and the social economic status that they hold in America, in most cases, that it is unlikely that you will become a housewife. I'm not saying it's not possible. I know that there are black women who are housewives out there, but the odds are not in your favor if you're hoping for that reality, because especially with the cost of living, particularly if you live in an area like I do, like the DC area, there's a lot of, we know that it's expensive to live in America, period. And so to put that expectation on a black man who arguably has challenges, as far as, gaining employment and so forth, that is a lot, so you kind of accept that, okay, well, not, you don't rule that out, but it may not be at the forefront of your mind in terms of the options that are available to you. And so that, okay, I'm going to have to, if you choose to become a wife, if that's what you want to do, this sort of mindset around, okay, well, I'm likely going to have to work and contribute to the household bills and, essentially probably cook, even if you're sharing it, you're probably going to be cooking maybe and cleaning, because that's just, no matter, even taking gender roles out of it, if you own a home or if you live in a house or an apartment, you should be cleaning. If you want to be a relatively healthy person, you likely should be cooking. So again, some of this is not even about gender roles. It's about what needs to happen for you to have a well-balanced and healthy life. So you think about all the things that you have to do as an individual, and then you have children and all the things you'll have to do for them. Now, mind you, if you're married, ideally, you're both supposed to be contributing and doing both, so helping the child however they need help, and going grocery shopping, and, again, managing the finances, and like I said, cooking and cleaning and whatever all those daily tasks are that we all do. Ideally, in a perfect world, things will be shared. But as a woman, especially as a woman who has had a child, that in most cases, even in the best marriages, the woman does a lot of the groundwork, especially in the beginning, with a newborn, because men cannot breastfeed. And, and then as women, we are nurturers and things like that. So there sometimes is an imbalance. But then what happens when there's an imbalance? Okay, as a woman, you're doing a lot of the domestic work, a lot of the invisible labor that I actually talk about in my book. And then you have to go back to work. Or maybe you never really, took a break from work because you couldn't afford to. Or maybe your break was, a few weeks or 6 weeks or whatever the minimum is that you get. And now you are thrust, again, back into that world of working and trying to, put on more of a business, corporate, whatever, mindset, and having to bring home money and having to, again, still pay bills, still manage finances. And that's just one scenario. It could even be that, your partner or husband travels for work, because maybe that is the way that they can maximize their income is to travel for work. So now you find yourself, okay, you have children. Just in this scenario, you might have a child or children. You're doing all the domestic, a lot of the domestic things because your partner is not around to do those things, and you're working and you're paying bills, and taking little minute things that as women we oftentimes like men to help us with, like taking out the trash. You're doing that too, because and you're not doing it because your partner is not a good one, but because they're not there, because they have to consider the fact that maybe this job that is out of state pays more, and it's more beneficial financially to the family for them to do that versus them being local and making less money. So what do you do? This is again, this is the frustrations of the modern black woman, and again, and I'm not saying all of us, but many of us, I think, probably, I would hope that a part of this message resonates with some of us because we've been there. So where does the pick me come in? I've talked a lot about the feminist side and just us trying to, be strong women and hold it down and like, work and contribute both as a nurturer and as a, I guess provider to some extent. But where does the pick me part come in? And again, by pick me, I'll say the part where you are trying to keep a man or you're trying to maintain your relationship. So that is, in my opinion, where the breakdown can sometimes happen, because you are trying to do all those things that I just described to the best of your ability, which is a lot, which is like having 2 jobs. And then to top it off, you, are doing your absolute best to stay, you are doing your best to not bruise the male ego. And to be fair, I will say that perhaps as a man, there might be certain things that they are really working hard at as well to not bruise the female ego. And I can't speak a lot to that because I'm not a man. So I'm going to fixate this more so on the men because I can, somewhat speak to that. But, and so let me explain what I mean. What I mean is, if I am rearing, a child or children, if I am nurturing them, if I am, cooking and cleaning, if I am going to the grocery store, and then I'm also like going to work and paying bills and maybe having to take out the trash because, your partner's not available to do that, or, so I'm doing a lot, right? And so if I'm doing all these things, but then I'm still expected to, most of us know that, especially as a Black man, there's, they are oftentimes beat down in society. And so then my job is to, at home, despite my frustrations, despite, how much I have on my plate, but yet I still have to, I don't have to, but I still choose to do my best to maintain that relationship. And whatever that looks like, again, every relationship is going to be different. So it doesn't necessarily mean, I'm going to cook all the time, or it could mean that. Or, but again, every relationship dynamic is different. So you're doing whatever it is you have to do to keep that relationship, because in a lot of ways, keeping that relationship is a social status. It's a social status, and in this society, to say you have a partner, to say you're married, to say you're engaged, or whatever it is, there is a social privilege that comes with that. So there could be a lot of reasons why you're trying to maintain that relationship. It could be for society, it could be for you personally. Maybe you don't want to be alone. Maybe maybe you want to have a child, and you hope to do that, or it could just be, like I said, partnership. When you think about the modern Black woman and who she is, and we are not a monolith, but some of the things that all of us are probably struggling with, dealing with, thinking about, trying to navigate, I would say it falls in the realm of, how are we going to be strong and hold it down? Not only hold it down for the house and for the man and even for our kids, but for ourselves. Again, I'm going to, kind of group that part up into feminism. And again, and knowing that feminism plays out in different ways, but essentially that's like equality. That's, I'm strong too. I can work too. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be independent. I don't want to depend too much on a man. Let me bring home some money so that I can have something. But then also I want to keep you, meaning the man, there. I got to figure out how do I navigate things in a way to be feminine. Okay, that's another buzzword. To be feminine, to be, all the things that I guess men might expect a woman to be. And I wish I can, have solutions. And sometimes there may not be one, but it may be just having a conversation and bringing a conversation to the forefront is going to be part of how we begin to address some of these things. So Please subscribe, as I always say, and check out some of my other videos and any videos that I link at the end here. And let me know what you think about this topic again. I'm going to say it again. Feminists in the streets, pick me in the sheets. What do you think about that? Bye.